Hey everyone, it's Nick here. Today I want to go over refactoring. Recently I've found that the lava duck character class that we've got, which is for our main character who we internally call Ducky, has become completely unmanageable. I guess the kind of rule of thumb for me is that when your class starts to look like the credits for a Hollywood movie, that it's just way, way too much. Classes should not be that massive, and this one has become very monolithic, mostly because when I started working on this, I was a lot less experienced than I am now. So I can see the problems that I had and the errors that I made in the past, and now I'd like to fix them. So my plan is to turn this very monolithic class into more of a component design pattern-based class. To do this, it's obviously going to take a lot of work. The header file alone is over 500 lines of code. And the C++ class is a lot more than that. I think it's about 1,500. So what I'm going to do is outline the steps that I'm going to take, and then I'm going to do it. And then hopefully next week, I'll check back with you guys to show exactly what I did and how it's helped. Okay, so here's the plan I've made. So we've got Ducky. This is representing the main class. And also in a way, and you'll see why, the input component. So the default input component that the character has on it. Now, I'll split it up into 3 different sections. We've got player actions. This is anything that the player does. So generated by the player, the actual user, the person holding the controller. And of the player actions, we've got ground movement. So running on the ground, that kind of stuff. Air movement, which is anything to do with when he's in the air, if he's jumping, if he's doing a flip, if he's doing a glide, that kind of thing. We've got our attacks. Now the attacks, of course, can be different depending on whether they're in the air or on the ground. And lastly, we've got interacts. Interacts are things like grabbing objects, throwing objects, using buttons, that kind of thing. And all of this we'll need to keep an actual eye on the state of Ducky at any one time. So what action is he performing? I.e., if he's in the air, we want to be able to do air type attacks, but still just use the attack component. Then the next thing I thought would be nice to have is some sort of messaging layer that I can use to trigger events for different things, such as like the game mode. Has Ducky died, for example, or should he be spawned? UMG, so if he picks up a coin or if he kills another enemy, something comes up on the screen. So the UI base, the HUDs, the heads-up display. Then also just thinking into the future a little bit, we might want to have things like achievements. So something that can send a message to Steam to say, hey, ding, 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 you have killed 3 pigeons with a squirrel. Then lastly, we've got our passive events. I couldn't really think of what else to call them, but they represent things that aren't necessarily player initiated, things like your health. And the good thing about creating a health component is that I could then reuse it for other enemies. And then the camera. The camera is a big one. There's a lot of code in this particular class just for the camera. And I think it doesn't quite make sense to have all this code for the camera in the Ducky class. So I'm going to move it into a completely different class, and hopefully that'll simplify this class a lot. So my basic aim is to end up with roughly no more than 500 lines of code in the actual C++ class for Ducky. That would be nice. Then finally here, I've just highlighted the ones that I think I'm going to actually create components out of. So I will make a ground movement component, an air movement component, an attack component, and an interact component. God, speak, Nick. And a messaging layer component, or maybe just call it message component, that I can just add to whenever I need to. And then finally a health component and the camera component. So this will be a specific like Ducky camera component. It will control all the camera movement. I can also, of course, add any other type of movement components or action components as they're needed. But if I've got these basic ones, then I can at least replicate the current functionality of the class, which is what I'm aiming to do just at first. So there's my plan. Hope this is insightful or helpful, maybe if you're going through some of the same problems. And I really hope that in a week or possibly two, let's see how I go, I will be able to update and show you what I did. But thanks for watching and have a great day or evening or night or weekend or whatever it is you're having. Bye.